My name is Tom, and welcome to today's webcast featuring Medialink Smartbox and hosted by TapClicks. Today's webcast will be discussing some of the challenges that marketers are faced with in regards to the velocity in managing data and how they can make that data actionable, or in other words, so much data but nothing to say. So today's agenda, we'll be doing our welcome and introductions, and then we'll discuss a little bit about the accelerated pace that marketers are faced with today. And then we'll be jumping into the Medialink presentation, So Much Data. Then we'll be talking about real-time campaign analysis featuring the Smartbox case study. And then we'll be concluding with Q&A. So today's guests are Trent Arkema, Vice President of Marketing at Smartbox, Mark Wagman, Managing Director at Medialink, and your ringmaster, yours truly, Tom Griggs, that's me. I'm Director of Marketing at TapClicks. Gentlemen, thank you for joining today. Appreciate your time. So before we get into the meat of this, just a real quick usual webinar housekeeping. Today's webinar will be recorded. You will receive a recording of that post the webinar. And if you have any questions during the webinar today, please go ahead and ask those during the webinar in the chat window or the Q&A window, and we will answer those questions towards the end of the webinar. So let's jump into it. TapClicks is built to help marketers address the changes of the increasing complexity and velocity of data that they see and deal with every day. A study done by eMarketer this year forecasts that the money spent on digital advertising in the United States will surpass that spent on traditional ads for the very first time in 2019. This marks the inversion of how budgets are allocated. By 2023, digital ads will capture more than 2/3 of all ad spending. If you add to this the stats on the explosive growth rate of data, the increase in the amount of data collected and stored by organizations over the last decade is significant. In 2017, there was 2.7 zettabytes of data that exists in the digital universe. Data production is forecasted to be 44 times greater in 2020 than it was in 2009. IDC estimates that by 2020, business transactions on the internet, B2B as well as B2C, will reach $450 billion per day. There's no doubt that the amount of changes that marketers are dealing with is significant. So how are marketers going to be able to get a handle on this rapid rise in marketing data growth and new channels? Well, the good news is that the growth has been recognized by many, did I say many companies? In fact, the growth of tools to handle that has also exploded from 150 tools in 2011 to over 7,000 this year. There's really no shortage of options. The average amount of tools deployed in most marketing shops today is around 91. And this makes it increasingly complex for marketers to push offers out and respond to campaign performance in a real-time, agile way, and really help to optimize the results of campaigns. Marketers are at the leading edge of these challenges. In fact, so much is changing so fast at times this can really look like an industrial revolution or a new industrial revolution where marketers are now the overworked factory workers. And sometimes that can look a little bit like this. Marketers are beginning to act more and more like production shops. Agencies are acquiring new clients, and enterprise marketers are being asked to develop new plays and be more nimble, adjusting campaigns based on performance at a faster and faster pace, with really a growing list of tools and channels to do it. Now, this really equals hundreds of campaigns and thousands of ads that need to be launched, managed, and monitored daily. And the pace is really only accelerating. The difference between thriving in this new revolution and marketers that aren't is the ability to efficiently leverage these tools to quickly identify opportunities for campaign performance improvement. Make this data actionable and respond quickly. Organizations that aren't able to do this will see things start to slip Opportunities will pass them by, the machine will start to break down, which means costs are going to go up, money will get wasted, and worse, agencies can lose accounts and sales funnels can fail to meet their quota demands. I'm going to hand this off to our guest speaker, Mark, who's going to walk you through how these changes practically look and how marketers can address the challenges. Mark?
Yep. So great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you making time for us today. So I'm going to start here with a little bit of an analogy. And if you've got kids at home, I think this will resonate pretty great with you as well. So real quick to start off, I work for a company called Medialink, and we help clients and marketers kind of navigate this space of data-driven marketing and all things personalization. And in a lot of cases, right, just like a 5-year-old who simply wants Legos to have them, we find that many marketers simply say, hey, I need more data, right? I need more customer data. I need point of sale data. I need more of it. And in my case, right, that ends up with a bunch of random Lego sets and random Lego pieces across a carpet. If we pop to the next one here, in the same way that kids then say, and parents in a lot of cases say, well, come on, guys, we got to put some structure around this, put some guide rails around the data that you're storing. Many parents will default to the let's go get a Rubbermaid bin or a box and put that data or put those Legos in that box. And in terms of data and data storage, this is where a lot of marketers have invested time, money, and effort into creating data warehouses, data management platforms, customer data platforms, etc. Right, and so in today's world, the opportunity for customers to put that data anywhere, right, is the easy piece of the puzzle. Finding somewhere to store it, easy. Then in a lot of cases, what you end up doing is starting to segment. In the same way here, right, kids will start to put together like colors and shapes. In my cases, you end up from having one big bin to now many bins in a bedroom or a closet of like shapes and colors. But by itself, those like shapes and colors don't really tell you a ton, right? You can start to put together data based on gender or life cycle or devices or any sort of primary key, if you will. But many marketers struggle then to start to make sense of it all and start to tell a story. So if we pop one more, that's usually where reality sets in, right? Which is I've spent all the time, all the money. I've worked with the big consultancies. I've put all my data in the cloud. I've bought all these data management platforms you've told me to buy, but I really can't start to tell a story because I don't know what I'm really looking at. And in a lot of cases, what you end up with then is essentially this mess, as you see on the screen, which are those boxes dumped over, and then kids are staring at this data set and say, or in this case, Legos, and saying, hey, what can I build and what can I do and what tools should I be building and what capabilities should I be thinking about? And the close of this cheesy analogy, if you will, is what is lacking in this space, and especially for the world of marketers, is that playbook, is the instruction manual on how to make sense of this all. And so to kind of hone in on that storyline a little bit, it's in today's world, having data and having access to data, not the problem. Finding signal from the noise and finding a story and articulating that story for marketers is the storytelling piece, which is the holy grail. Perfect. So as I said before, there are kind of 3 components to this from a storytelling perspective, right? One, you need all those raw ingredients. You need the data assets. You need the building blocks, or in this case, to carry on that analogy, the Legos, to start to tell you a story. You need somewhere to put that data, and then you need to be able to tell a story with it in hopes, right, as quickly as possible. To put some context on these numbers, right, if you think about the money being spent in aggregating data, buying data with respect to marketing purposes, right? In 2018, so last calendar year, nearly $20 billion was spent on audience data acquisition, the tools, the platforms, all those technologies needed to make sense of the raw ingredients. And if you believe the surveys that are out there today from the Winterberries and eMarketers and others in the space, right, close to 75% of the marketers who make up that $20 billion spend are going to spend more this calendar year in 2019 than they ever did before. And a lot of the money they're going to spend is in that last piece, which is the insight to action piece, which is, essentially, how do I take all the data that I've got from social networks, from my own applications, from my websites, from all the digital touch points I have today? How do I start to make sense of all of that? And there's the quote here at the top of this slide, right? If it doesn't bring you joy, it's a play on the Netflix special of the house cleaning and being able to kind of clean your own closet. But in a lot of cases, what we start to talk to marketers about is, going down this path of becoming a true data-driven marketer and being best-in-class tip of spear with respect to being able to use that data starts with getting rid of all the stuff that just doesn't provide you any value, right? So all that data that you've been storing is great, but in a lot of cases, right, the noise created by having too much of it inhibits you from actually telling a story. And where we work with a lot of marketers is in exactly that, right? Which is figuring out how to look at data sets, both those that are purchased and also those that are created by just running a media campaign. How do you look at those data sets and how do you start to use it to tell a story? I don't think that you can read any survey or any article in today's world about how how consumers like you and I feel about marketing, right? Feel about the digital advertising that is put in front of us. The one thing that is abundantly clear across the board and everything that I have seen and read and helped create in this marketplace is that the more relevant marketing is, the more relevant the messaging is to the consumer, the less likely it is for that consumer to think it is noisy, it is providing them no value, right? And so being able to build that story is the toughest part of this whole thing. And again, there's some lines in the market today. If you go to some of the conferences in the space and others, you'll hear this concept constantly, which is how do we move from a world of putting a message in front of a consumer to moving to a world of being able to tell a story to a consumer so that that consumer does what we want them to do. So how do we get there? So with respect to the marketing organizations that we work with here at Medialink, we've kind of got a three-pronged approach, and I think that this would apply to a wide swath of the customer base of TapClicks and a wide swath of those who are on the phone today, right? Which is kind of this three-step approach to really getting to that tip of spear, getting to the best-in-class marketer that we all know everybody wants to be, right? And we break this down into three key steps. One is building an audience intelligence backbone so that you really understand who your consumers are. This does not mean go out and buy all the data that I can go get and just buy, so that I've got more and I can go tell my boss, look at all this data I procured, right? It's really the collection, understanding, and activation of all of that data, right? So it's not just saying, hey, I want more of it, but it is, how do I get the data that I need to tell the story that I want to tell? The second piece of this puzzle is the thinking and the process piece, right? Which is the infusing this approach into everything we do. It should not just be, hey, I'm going to run a media campaign, so let me go back to my data warehouse and build a segmentation model for the purposes of a given campaign. Or, hey, my analytics team needs a data set, so I'm going to go grab a data set out of my data warehouse, right? Data discovery, data insights, data management needs to be core across the marketing organization. And probably most relevant in today's world, we see marketers using this as a space to really kind of hone in on this world of consumer identity and understanding at the most granular level, right, who your customer is, what they're doing, and what they want to be communicated with. And then lastly, I think here, it's an important one that I think many people forget about in the marketplace today, which is both an input and an output, which is measurement, right? We tell clients constantly, right, a brand. If you are right, if you care about moving things out of a world of tracking impressions and clicks and actions and into a world where I want to measure real-time business results, right? That measurement framework or theory needs to be infused across everything we do. and it can't just be an afterthought, right? And so the point of this slide is to really say, this concept of data and data being used in today's marketplace as kind of this liquid gold, if you will, is not by itself, right, just a point solution. It is a key underlying kind of infrastructure or capability that needs to be infused across the marketing organization from early days of campaign planning, right? So how do I use that same data set to do my campaign planning all the way through activation? So when I'm ready to actually run a paid media campaign or power an earned or owned campaign, how do I use that data I learn, right, from the learnings? And then how does that activation layer create new data sets, right? So I've built a segmentation model, I've run a media campaign, and now that media campaign is going to create a vast amount of data as data exhaust. Who engaged with your campaign, who didn't, what did they do, why did they do it? And that data then feeds back into your kind of loop. And all of a sudden now we've infused this data-driven capability across the organization. So if there's anything you take away here from this little set of slides, it's that, more data by itself is not a data strategy. Creating the frameworks and processes so that data can be used across a marketing organization is obviously the holy grail. And starting with a set of tools that you can start to help make sense of the data you've got is probably the best place to start. Great. So with
Thanks,
that,
Mark.
yeah, go for it.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Good insights there. So now I'd like to hand this ball over to Trent Ackerman, Vice President of Marketing for Smartbox, who's going to talk to you a little bit about how they are addressing some of these challenges and helping to gain more insights from the data that they're using. Trent?
Thanks, Tom. So just a little bit about Smartbox. We're a full-service digital agency. We're located in New Albany, Indiana, and we work mostly in the dental industry space. And so really, our challenge was just what Mark was talking about. We had all the data, but we didn't have anywhere to store it. We didn't store it in the same place, the same way, and so we really didn't have a story to tell. So our challenge was we were doing manual data collection and analysis coming from multiple sources. We were gathering that data in different ways. And it wasn't always accurate. So our clients, one, weren't believing the data that we were giving them. And so we spent more time trying to convince them that our data was correct. And we also didn't have a place where our marketing team could go to see all the data holistically to make good marketing decisions in a real-time manner. So our challenge was twofold: from a client perspective and giving them data that they could trust, and cutting down on the manual time we were spending, but also from an internal perspective and giving our marketing team a place to go where they could see how the entire campaign was running across different things we were doing on Google Ads, Bing, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, so we could tell that story holistically to our clients. And so when we went looking out for a solution, it was a twofold solution. One, we needed to give our clients great visuals about what we were doing and what we were doing from a marketing perspective and how that was driving results from them. Again, doing that from multiple sources, but also we needed a visualization for our internal teams to look at things and how marketing campaigns were performing to make real-time optimizations. Another challenge that we ran into, because we are in the healthcare industry, is that we needed something that was HIPAA compliant. Because one of the things that we do is that we actually record every call that comes into each one of our practices, so we can tag that call correctly, and our clients can listen to those call recordings to see what that call resulted in. And so that was an important piece of the solution we were looking for. So not only did we need to take and create dashboards and visualizations for our client that are easy to read and easy to see what we're doing on our behalf, but we also needed a platform that allowed us to look at our campaigns and take the data from all those different channels that we were marketing for our clients and give us a picture of what was going on and what was driving value for our clients. The solution we also wanted was, to be able to automate certain reports that we could send to clients that just lets them run their business better day in and day out, and they don't have to log in. They have the ability to log in whenever they want, but they're also getting automated reports when they want to get those automated reports to make decisions they need to make within their office. And so, when we went looking out in the marketplace, we probably looked at 15 to 20 different solutions, and TapClicks really gave us everything we needed. We had certain budget constraints that we needed to meet, but we were also looking for a client that could grow with us from our growing client list as well. And so really the benefits for us have been, a multitude of benefits. Right now we have a dashboard that clients can log into at any time to see what's going on with their performance. So they don't have to rely on our data and our spreadsheets to say, yes, this is or is not happening. It's allowed us, our client success management team, to no longer spend time on data manipulation and data gathering, but really focused on the client and how we can improve their campaigns. And so it's a better all client experience for us. From our side internally, we've created a bunch of dashboards that really give us the ability to see what's going on from not only multiple channels, but multiple different strategies as well, whether that be we're looking at SEO and how that's working with paid, how that's working with local, so we can really see all channels working together and see what's driving the needle. And that allows us to go back into the marketplace and into those channels and make the right decisions we need to make to really drive better performance for our clients. And so the time efficiency just alone that we've gained by working with TapClicks is probably pays for itself. But the fact that we've been able to build customized dashboards that we're using internally, and we can create multiple views, one for the client, one for us, has just given us the ability to enhance and optimize our campaigns at a level that we wouldn't have been able to do without a platform like this. So, just working with both CallRail and TapClicks has clearly shown to our clients the ROI that we're able to drive for them month over month and year over year. And it's been a huge trust factor that we've been able to build with our clients as well, because they know that we're listening to the calls. It's an individual team that's tagging those calls, so they don't have to believe us. They believe the data, and we're able to tell a better story.
Thank you, Trent. Thank you, Mark. At this point, what we'd like to do is go ahead and take your questions. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the chat feature or into the Q&A feature, and we'll go ahead and answer some of those. First and foremost, I think one of the things that, as I'm thinking about these top of mind really is maybe for Mark, for you, as kind of we look at the pile of Legos here, there's got to be, a way of picking these things up, organizing them that is a bit more efficient than, going and just kind of scooping them up and putting them in a box like that. As you kind of look at the market and these pile of Legos, do you see tools that are out there? And obviously this is, I'm from TapClicks, and I see TapClicks as kind of one of those tools, but how important is it that marketers look at these tools that help them to organize these types of data messes and landscape messes that they're having to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think one thing that the data management platform world, so the DMP space, did pretty well early days was build in some data discovery insights, audience insights, whatever you want to call them, capabilities within these big data sets to really start to kind of overlay basic demographic data, for example, on top of your data set. So, for example, you could start to collect a bunch of anonymous web traffic, and then using a DMP, right, start to overlay some demographic data to better understand, how many of those people are potentially female or male, or, sit within a household income bucket, or, have a political affiliation that is relevant to you. I think what makes this space a little bit more difficult in today's world is that, if you're a marketer, you can't just simply rely on a data set of anonymous, right, cookie-based data sets. You've got to be able to tie these things together, both the data created through digital environments like a website, like a mobile application, but also those within a physical retail location or a physical store, point of sale, maybe an experiential opportunity. And so the struggle becomes not only kind of making sense of all of that data, but also doing simple things like deduping records, right? Do I have 100,000 unique customers, or is this the same 10,000 customers in my data set 10 different times with 10 different email addresses? That stuff becomes a data quality and cleansing problem, which is, again, key to a lot of this as well. And then, again, tools like TapClicks and others can start to layer on top of that and start to play the bridge. One of the most difficult things for many marketers in today's space is something called identity resolution, which is, tying together a Twitter handle to an anonymous ID to an email address that might be hashed. And so, right, starting to make sense of those tools, starting to make sense of those data sets can really help you, start to, make sense of it all. And lastly, to carry through the Lego analogy here a little bit, right, like, putting everything in a box is a great first step, and then you can kind of put your hand in there and start to kind of test and learn. As those data sets get bigger and bigger and bigger, testing and learning can become a little bit more difficult. And so really, to take that analogy a little step further, like getting rid of the pieces that don't help you can be a great first step in kind of making sense of all that mess.
Yeah, there's always that one piece that you can't find, right? It's drives you crazy. It's like a puzzle. So Trent, I think as you've kind of gone through this process, some of the lessons that you've learned, I think, one of the things that has come up for you is some regulatory issues, security around that. How important is that for you, and how do you see that impacting marketers as we move forward? We're starting to see some compliance issues pop up with, obviously everyone knows about GDPR, but in California, CCPA and those kinds of things. I know you have some pretty stringent requirements around HIPAA.
Yeah, I think it's only going to become more prevalent. I mean, obviously, our clients have consumer data that they do not want out in the marketplace, and those patients don't want out in the marketplace. So it's of the utmost sensitivity to our client base. So it's something, as we go out into new channels and we're looking at doing new things, that's always one of our number one questions is, okay, are we still going to be in compliance with our clients and their patients if and when we do this? I don't see that's not going away. Obviously, Europe has taken a little bit harsher and stance on it than the U.S., but I think, that's going to continue to be prevalent. People want personalization, but they don't want it to be creepy, right? And so you always have to balance those two things in any marketing campaign that you're going to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would see marketers are, the consumer base wants more personalization. There's a drive and a demand for that. In order to get more personalization, we have to really be thoughtful about how we gather up these Legos and put them in the box. And oh, by the way, if you don't do that in a correct fashion, Big Brother's there to slap you on the wrist and fine you if you don't. So there's real risk there, and beyond just good business practices. I think one of the things that we at TapClicks take a look at here, and we think about compliancy and CCPAs and the myriad of other different regulatory issues that are going to pop up around this as we move forward into new centuries and new years, is that Yeah, these compliances should really be kind of a baseline, and I think customers and partners that we work with, we're really trying to push more towards a best practice. And the compliancy issues, if you do this right, are really just kind of just the baseline. We can work and achieve a much greater level of performance if we build this correctly. And oh, by the way, if we also build it correctly, compliancy will take care of itself as well too. Let me go ahead and check our chat, our Q&A. I think that addresses it for today. Really thank you for joining today's webcast. As I mentioned at the outset, this webinar was recorded. You'll receive a link at the shortly for that. So we'll be sharing the slides here as well with you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at marketing@tapclicks.com. That concludes today's webcast, and we thank you so much for your time.